magazine from England is solid wood turning. And what I like best about it is the man is making a project, and it'll say 39 meters, and they say 22 inches. So I'm not just guessing, I don't know what the conversion is, but it'll give you the conversion in meters and in inches, so you know exactly what they're talking about.
Brian, she is a set of carbide chip.
Bench stones.
Okay.
That's cheap.
You don't have to.
Sharpening
You don't have to.
is a subject that if you talk to 10 different people, you're probably going to get 10 different ways of sharpening, and there's some debate in ornamental turning as to how sharp things have to be. There's some people that sharpen a great deal with some extremely fine grits, and look at their cutting edges under magnification, and that's probably the ultimate high end. The question is that what's necessary? And if that's not necessary, how far down do you go before you reach what's required? The thing about ornamental turning is your cut is it. I mean, you can't go back and sand it and do anything to it. The quality of your cut is what your piece is going to be. And if you've got any little lines in your cutter, it's going to show up on your workpiece. So you need to have the cutter sharp. Everything up here in the way of sharpening stones, I bought at Woodcraft Supply back in Massachusetts. I've got water stones, I've got ceramic stones, and I've got some little diamond, a little diamond cone and some little flat bars with diamond on it. I bought all of this to try to compare and see what would do the quickest job, what would cut the quickest, and what kind of edge you could get off of all of these stones. And we're playing with another process with a cast iron lapping disc that you can put little powdered grit into the cast iron wheel and revolve the wheel. We've found that somewhere around 80 or 90 RPM is sufficient, and you can put a little oil on there, put your grit on there, and put your tool on there, and that grit becomes impregnated into the cast iron. So once you put a grit onto a wheel, that's the grit forever, basically, because you'll never get it cleaned off. I suppose you could go to a coarser grit and everything would be all right, but you can never go to a finer grit because some of those coarser grit particles will still be there. What I had in mind was some kind of a little system where you could turn that cast iron wheel over and then have a grit on that side. So you might want a fairly coarse grit to get your cutters down good and flat the first time. After that, you probably wouldn't use the coarser grit and use the last two finer grits. That may be the ultimate way of doing most of these is with a little powered wheel, because it's faster. You don't have the hand work of sharpening the cutters, and then your cutters, once you get the beveled edges sharp, get the grinding marks out of them, get them down sharp, get them polished, you should be able to just do your sharpening and stonework on the top flat side only. And if you do that, you'll just be moving this down and remove the little wear land and not have to deal with your contours or your angled sides after the first time. Of course, if they get a nick on them or dropped or whatever, then you're going to have to get rid of that. That's the real problem. Doing the flat side is easy. Any stone, turn this upside down and do it, and it's not that big of a deal. The trick is getting the shape. If it's a flat, straight cutter like this, Not too big a deal. If it's angled one way or the other, still not too much of a problem. The next most difficult ones to do would be the full radius ones. The most difficult cutters to do are the ones with the point in the center and 2/4 radiuses from each side. Anything with an inside radius is a sharpening problem, because there isn't any real fast, slick way of doing it. The only thing that I've found is just these little cones, and this is, I believe, a 600 grit diamond cone. And incidentally, out of all this stuff, the diamond seems to cut the fastest. It doesn't need any lubrication. You can take it over and wash it off. If it gets loaded up, you just wash it off. A little lubrication doesn't hurt any of this, but the diamond and the ceramic doesn't require any. The water stones, of course, have got to be in water. So if you've got
woodcrafts as well,
the diamond stone
Yeah.
and cone, yeah, all the diamonds and the ceramics and the water stones came from there. So they advertise in all the woodworking magazines. You can call them a good catalog if you don't have it. But with this long tapered cone, you can move up and down until you find where your diameter matches your radius the best. And then you can't stroke it long because the diameter difference is too great. So you've got to find where it fits and take real short little strokes. Well, then your cutters, like at the top is your cutting edge, then you've got relief both ways like this is. See, this cutter is smaller down here on the sides, plus on the front. Well, your cone is not straight up and down. You've got your cone tipped over a little bit. So realistically, what you're getting is a parabolic shape instead of a radius. That's why the inside radiuses are difficult to deal with. After you sharpen these enough, you're not going to have a radius anymore. It's going to be a parabolic. Stay close. The way it works. Bill wants us to change this so the 1/4 inch tools will fit in it, but if this were a round nose tool, you can set this up and down here. So when you're on the table or on the stone, well, actually this would be on the table and your cutter would be on the stone. So wherever you adjust this to get your relief angle, and if you're over here like this, wherever you're at, you're working the radius, that full radius. So this is a slick little device for doing the outside radius tool. Takes a little while, and you got to keep sweeping the arc so you don't get little flat spots on your radius tools, but that works real well.
Do you make those?
No, we haven't.
Can you?
Oh, sure we can. That really is about the only thing, the easiest thing you can do with them. But again, with the powered wheel, I'm not sure if you couldn't have a little steady rest out here and work that. I think we're going to play with that powered wheel a little bit more and see if that works. Then you really won't use this, because this is just for hand working on the stones. And I think with that, and you have a little place out here to rest your hands, you can work that radius and come over here and work the other side to the center, and it'll be real quick. But again, it'll take you some time to do these beveled edges. Once you get that entire beveled edge the way it needs to be, barring any chips or accidents, you should only have to grind and hone this flat surface. And then the other thing to help yourself out is don't let them get dull. Keep them sharp. And tune them up on a regular basis, because once they get dull, that dull wear land grows quickly.
I found that with most of the tools, if you do sharpen them on the tops, Stewart, when I bought Stewart tools, he had that little tiny plastic diamond hones about that long, probably about 1/4 inch wide, 3/8 of an inch wide, and you just put that on the top and held it back and forth a couple times, and even carbide's back to sharp.
All right, so the key is to keep it sharp. like I say, once you let it get dull, then you're going to be here for quite some time getting rid of that. So just a quick little touch-up on occasion will keep them sharp, and then you won't spend much time on your tools. You're going to spend some time initially getting these bevels in shape, but after that, just do the flat side. You know, whether you put it down on a wheel or you have a little diamond stone or whatever you use, keeping it sharp is the easiest thing to do. Not let it get dull and give you a bad cut, and you got to go home for quite a while. Out of the stuff that I have here, the diamonds cut the quickest. The ceramics are pretty good. The water stones, if you work your way up through the grits, cut fast. If you start with like a 6 to 800 is coarse. Now these grits, the Japanese water stones, don't really correspond to what normal grits you're used to thinking about. So a 6 to 800, then you go to about 1,000 or 1,200, then to a 2,400, and then to a 6,000. On the 6,000, I can get this polished like a mirror. You can see yourself in it. And it doesn't really take very long. The water stones cut real fast, and that's one of the things I like about the water stones. So this is the 800 here. So you can move your cutter along the stone, you know, try to keep it all over the stone where you don't wear a trough right down one spot. And it's easy to get in a hurry and go to the next grit before, I don't know if you can see that dull matte finish that's on there already, just with that little bit. But you want to go until you don't see any scratches of any kind on your courses, on your grit, before you proceed on to the next one. Because if you get in too big a hurry and start going to the next finer stone, then you're just going to be on that stone that much longer to get rid of any defects. The downfall of the water stones is they're somewhat messy to work with. This is the 1200 here. You can even hear the difference. You can't hear a little scraping sound like on the 800 grit. And this is the first initial, really this cutter hadn't been sharpened like it ought to have been. So if you're just doing a little tune-up, you wouldn't start down on the 800 or even the 1200. I'd say the 2400, then the 6000 if you're just doing your quick little touch-up. I don't know if you can see it getting a little shinier. I keep my water stones in the water all the time. It doesn't seem to affect the wooden blocks on them.
Are they marked?
They what?
Are the stones marked?
These two were. I don't see the mark on this one. Yeah, it doesn't have a grid on it. You can usually tell by just feeling it. Now this, you can start seeing where it's more polished, but it still has some dull spots. So you got to keep on this stone until those dull spots are gone, until it's all shiny.
Now, should this routine be done to all the originally
Yes.
ground sides and everything?
Yeah, the first time around, you know, you can use whatever you want in the way of stones. There's a little set of ceramic slip stones here. They're little teardrop shaped and triangles and squares and rounds that you can get down in and do some shapes. Unfortunately, most of the stuff that you buy and this kind of stuff, it's like medium and fine grit. I don't even tell you what it is for sure, and even the fine stuff, I'm not sure if it's fine enough for what we need to do here. The water stones you can get, you know what grit you've got, and they do have make some little slip stones, water slip stones that you can get down into some of this. If I were to pick an ideal system, I think the diamonds would be great for roughing stuff down quickly, and then move on to something like the water stones there to get you a finer polish and edge on everything.
Ray, have you come across this micro surface finishing products company in Wilton, Iowa? They've
Yeah,
got
that's
something
super
new.
fine
Yeah,
paper.
they go down to 12,000.
Yeah, 12,000 grit paper.
They have a plastic kit which I sent for, and it does a great job on plastic, but I think they have a metal. I haven't tried that yet.
I'm jumping stones too quick there, but that's getting fairly polished, the surface. And it doesn't take too long. But again, the time-consuming and difficult issue is going to be doing your beveled edges. This one, I could probably take where it's just a straight cutter, hold it, and get it. But you're going to have to be very careful. If you roll that edge once, you're in trouble. Because when you roll it, you're going to roll it probably quite a bit, and that much of that top is going to have to be removed. And all you've got to do is let that cutter rock over just a little bit. Or if you're on here and if you pick up just a tiny bit and you roll that edge, you've just put another little angle or a angle on the end of it, and you're going to essentially destroy your sharp edge that you went after. So it's hard to do holding stuff by hand. That's why you need to have some little devices to try to help hold stuff for you. This, incidentally, is a whole sample Varnistat. I believe it's whole sample.
It doesn't say on it.
It doesn't say, but it's whole sample style, and it has the ability to change your angle this way, and then also you can change this over to an angle, lay your cutters, and it has 2 feet. Your cutter makes the third, and then you just move this back and forth, and it's holding your cutter steady at an angle. This little device here I bought from Woodcraft Supply also. I think it's somewhere between 40 and 50 bucks. You can swivel the head this direction and this direction. See if we can set up a simulation here. If you're doing this type of work, you need, like, you remember Frank Knox's slides last night, where he had the stone and then a little platform built beside it? That's what you need. You need something to hold, to rest these feet on, other than the stone. And then whatever you're sitting on over here, you can adjust this so it's holding your cutter at the angle that you want. Device like this, especially if you work your way through the grits. The inside radius tools, you're just going to have to sit there with a little cone or a little teardrop slips and work them out. Be extremely careful with them, don't drop them, and you won't have next to the pipe. And then just do your tops. I think with the little cast iron wheels and the grits, that's going to be the fastest way. The water stones, I think, cut pretty fast, and you don't have, too much time in them. Their drawback is they're messy. You've got a mess to deal with. There's a new little gizmo out on the market. It's about $50. It's called a stone pump. It's a plastic container that holds your stones and all this. And I bought this at Walmart for $3 or $4. Seals them up. Yeah. Seals. I leave the water in there so they're ready to use, and it seals it so that it doesn't start throwing green nasty things in there on you. The ceramics are pretty decent, but the main problem with the ceramics, the stuff you can buy out of the woodworking catalogs, you never seem to know exactly what grit you have. They call it fine, medium, coarse. So if you could find some of the ceramics that you knew what you were getting, you could work that out. When we get done with all this, I'm going to leave this out if anybody wants to sharpen any of Tom's cutters. That's mine. Any questions on that part of the?
I think that one will rotate also. You could do a,
This?
yes,
Yeah, it rotates like this.
no, within the chuck, you could do a.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can take this, and this one down, and rotate this like this, and this like this. So you can get this cranked around in any position you want to do this. The cutters that are straight across the end or angled to the left or the right, you can do with no problems with this tool.
So long, everybody.
Take care.
The little diamond wheels, round. My sons use them on sharpening their diamond cutting.
We've got a
diamond setting tools.
Wheel here in
And
the shop.
they have a bracket, comes up a post and a bracket with set angle. And you just touch it a little bit, and then they have another wheel they put on the same spindle, which is ceramic or maybe porcelain. And they just put a little drop of diamond paste on it.
Those diamond wheels are expensive.
And boy, is it got polished. Just as
Yeah, those
beautiful.
types of wheels you can get in lots of different grits, but they're extremely expensive.
Yeah, they're expensive. They sure do a job.
I doubt that you could hardly justify the cost of those for this kind of stuff, because really, if you don't let them get dull and they don't get damaged, just a quick tune-up with a diamond or a water stone, you're not talking about much time after you've done the initial work on it. The cutters that we provided, I think they were all a real fine grind, but if you magnified that edge, you're going to see little peaks and valleys of the grinding marks off the grinding wheel. And you need to get those out to where when you magnify that edge, it's a smooth, continuous edge without any lines in it. Hey, Ray. You could sprinkle grit on it.
Right, and had a tool support too to maintain the angle.
I think it was called a hone right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want one now, I couldn't find it.
Well, you should have bought one. Maybe stayed in business.
Yeah.
Might work
It's
also.
all your fault.
I used to do stained glass, and I just thought that they have a little stained glass cutter with two different diameter diamond spindles on it. It's about this big around the bottom, and it's about big around as a pencil lead on the top. It has diamond, it's water cooled and everything. So if anybody's done any stained glass or knows anybody like that, they might allow you to use a diamond grinder.
What about the whetstones, the motor driven whetstones?
We're real
Like-
fancy.
Yeah.
Some of the one you can,
No control.
if they have a little wall around it, it doesn't sling the water too bad. it depends on what you're doing. I'd say if you were doing the flat sides where you can take it and come down on it.
Right.
See, that's something you're gonna have to be careful with. You may want to, say this was your wheel rotating, instead of trying to come down on it, if you were a little bit forward and hit that cutting edge first, you've ruined it. So what you may want to do is to come to the edge and then down, or set the heel down. You want to work out some technique that where either you're coming straight down on it, but no, you're not going to roll that cutting edge over. Because any little bit, and you ruined that cutting edge. So if you were doing that with the rotating whetstones, that might work okay too. And I don't know what grits those round wheels are available in. If you get-
1,000.
Well,
That's pretty coarse. for a
Ray,
whetstone.
there's a company you see in home shop machinists, and I can't think of the name of it. It makes a little motorized thing that has 3 different diamond flat. And somehow they coat it with diamonds and plate it, cover
Right.
it, and then they grind it off some way so.
Well, I think
diamonds
basically that's what
through
these
the-
are, is a little diamond plate type on there.
But that gets down pretty fine. They got like 6,000.
Oh, really? Well, that sounds like something, because the diamonds
What is
are,
it
The
called?
wood turning, that's the big one. That's
That's the one that vibrates, doesn't it? It
No.
doesn't rotate.
No, this
I've
rotates.
seen one
It's a
that
wheel. They have
vibrates.
3 different grades of diamond. Ray, I'll try and
Okay.
photocopy it next time I get one of those issues. It's too
well, that's, yeah, I'm fine enough.
They make lapidary
Well,
wheels that have 2 grits on the same side, an inner
Right.
one and one, and then they have them where you can flip them over. There's whetstones,
So I really don't think we need to concern ourselves with the really fancy little sharpening systems here, you know, just take, you know, it's gonna take the time to do your contour. But I think if you get that done, and you get it done good once, that's it. Then it's just a simple matter of doing the flat side. So I think some people believe that you gotta do that contour shape every time. I don't think you do. You know, once you've got that sharp all the way up, or got it smooth, you know, you've got the imperfections removed out of it, then you shouldn't have to do that anymore. And basically, that's what all of these little sharpening devices were for. They kept changing, working on the contour. Well, with the steel we were using, they're not going to be breaking down on you like the old ones were. They're going to stay sharp much, much longer. And just a little tune-up will keep them sharp. And I don't think the sharpening is as big an issue as a lot of people make it out to be. You know, if you were using the old whole sample type, you're going to spend a tremendous amount of time sharpening, because they're nothing but high carbon steel, like a chisel or a hand plane iron. They're not any kind of an alloy. You know, like the cutters that we supply are nice tool steel, high-speed alloy, and they're going to hold an edge a long time. But just don't let them get dull, and you won't have to be spending a lot of time sharpening. Just a quick little touch-up now and then will keep them going. The next little part I wanted to talk about was making cutters. I think there's going to be some cases where you're working on a project, you think of a little shape or a special cut that you want to do, and I think everybody should have the ability to make a little cutter themselves. And make it quickly, use it and go on. You know, don't have to wait on somebody to make a cutter for you, which would take a week or two at least to have somebody make it and get it to you. And this way you can make your own and use it and get on with your project. We've done a little bit of discussing on it, and I think the best thing for this purpose would be 01 tool steel. It's an oil hardening tool steel. It's a high carbon tool steel, has 0.9% of carbon, and it's an alloy that has manganese, tungsten, chromium in it, so it's a pretty decent steel. It's not as good at edge holding as the high speed that we provided with the machine, but it will last a long time. Not as long as the ones we provided, but it'll last for quite a while, hold a pretty decent edge. And what I envision this for is for a special little thing that you're not going to use a lot. If it turns out to be a favorite cutter that you like, then maybe you will want to go ahead and have one made out of high-speed steel. But this would at least allow you to try it. And I wouldn't even have one. If I liked it, I'd continue using it until it didn't look like it was going to hold up, then get one made. But this material, this 1/4 inch square, comes in 18-inch long sticks, and this was $10 to $15 for the piece.
10 or 15?
10, somewhere between $10 or $15 for an 18-inch long piece.
$12.50.
Something like that. 18 inches will make several cutters. It's soft.
Why don't you use high-speed steel, Brian?
Well,
Is it
you can
just
buy
strictly the
high-speed soft, but it's difficult to heat treat with the process, the little home process. This stuff is very forgiving in the heat treating process. This is soft. You can hacksaw a piece off of it here. You can grind it. You can take files and do your shaping. What I would do, I'd leave it long because it's easier to hold on to and work. I'd go to a grinder and rough off everything I could. If not, grind the shape you want. You might be able to grind the shape you want. But on a bench grinder, it may be difficult to get the detail you want. But at least get your relief angles ground away, get most of your shape ground away, and then go in with some fine files if you want little steps or whatever, and put those in with some files. But with this being soft, with normal files and hacksaws, you can work it. Whereas if you had a piece of hardened tool steel, the only thing you can do to it is grind it. Okay, you can buy soft, high-speed steels, but you cannot heat treat that yourself.
Like the high-speed steel tool blanks you use for your metal lathes. You don't have to heat treat it after you grind the shape into those, do you?
Those are already hard, though. See, the only thing you can do is grind it. You can't file it, and you can't hacksaw a piece off.
You gotta have a tool and cutter grinder or a surface grinder.
Yeah, if you had a real fancy grinder that you could control the shape of your wheel and do all your grinding, which that's how those cutters were made that we supplied with the lathe. The wheel was formed to the shape, and they were formed ground, and if you've got that, yeah, do it that way. But what I'm trying to come up with is a system that with a hacksaw and a few files, a propane torch, and your oven in your kitchen, you can make and heat treat your own cutters.
And you can get it almost as hard as high-speed steel.
You can get it as hard or harder than high-speed steel. The hardness is only part of an edge-holding ability. You need a certain amount of toughness. Hardness isn't the only thing. Some extremely hard steels won't hold an edge. So we think this old one would be the best choice because it's very forgiving in its heat treating. It's soft, you can work it, and it does have the alloys required to have a pretty decent edge holding tool. If it's a shape that you can grind in a grinder, that's what I do. I ground, just a while ago went down and ground this one in about 5 minutes. So you can see it's just a straight cutter, but maybe you want one of a certain width. So with this, you can grind it. So you want to do a basket weave, but you didn't want a 1/4 inch wide or 1/8 inch wide. You want something different. You can grind that. I've made this cutter where it's the width I want at the front. It's tapers slightly to the back on both sides. So when this cutter is being used and coming through making a basket weave cut or whatever, it's not cutting on the sides. Your sides are tapered in and they clear. On the back, you can see the tapers from the sides and from the end. That's your cutter relief. When it's swinging through the cut, you can't have any of this back here rubbing or you're going to get burns. So if you make a cutter and it's burning, you don't have enough relief on it. So put as much relief on there as you can and still hold what your shape that you want to do. So this shape here is something that can be done on the grinder totally. But if you wanted some little detailed steps or contours or something, you may be able to rough it, but then finish it. It depends on the wheels you have. If you've got a little diamond to dress it with, or a little star dresser, you can shape your grinding wheels. You might be able to grind everything you need. It may be quicker in some instances just to rough it out, pick up a file, and get the detail in. So that's what you can do with the little cutters like that. I left this on here while I was working with it, and then just sawed it off to length. And as far as heat treating goes, this little torch here is just a propane torch. This yellow bottle is MAP gas, MAPP. It is 56% propane, 44% acetylene. So this will burn a lot hotter than just propane. So it's a little more expensive. This is about $7 for a bottle versus about $3 for your propane. But with this, it says you can braise with it. So propane you can't braise with. But this is a little, just a trigger start torch. So what you need to do for your heat treating is you need a little torch like this. You need a little can of oil. This is a real light oil. And this is what you'll quench the part in, quench the cutter in once you get it hot. And when you quench it, you don't want to just stick it in and hold it. You want to swirl it around. So the purpose of what you're trying to do is cool this quickly. That's what makes it hard. If you let it cool slowly, it doesn't harden. So you want to move it around so you're not, if you just stick it in one spot, you're going to heat that oil up in that one spot and it's not going to quench as fast. After you quench it, then it needs to be tempered at 400 degrees for 1 hour. Your kitchen oven works just fine for that. Get all the oil off before you do it there. Stinky plate.
That tastes too good after that. Maybe you can bake your pie at the same time.
Yeah,
You double do.
that might be a good one. Something like mineral spirits, something to cut the oil and let that evaporate off. Just they're good and clean. You shouldn't have any smell or any problem at all. But that 400 degrees for 1 hour will take some of the hardness away and stabilize the cutter.
Does that bring it in form about a straw color?
That'd be about right. 400 would be about straw brownish. Incidentally, the color of torching and heating it is supposed to be cherry red.
What would you lay it on in there? I mean, obviously anything that would withstand the heat.
Yeah, and like little tin foil pan, pie pan or something. But we'll get this thing probably around 65 Rockwell with the torch and the Lathe. And that's a little too hard and it's too brittle. The harder it is, the more brittle it is. So temper it in the oven will draw a little bit of that hardness away and maybe get you down around 60 and also help stabilize it where it's not so brittle. I think it should be a necessary step. You could try to use it the way it is. It's going to be plenty hard, but there's a good possibility it's going to chip on you. And it may chip in a big enough piece that it could be a safety hazard.
Should you let the oven, the heat gradually cool?
No, I would preheat the oven, so 1 hour from when it's 400 degrees. Okay, if you throw it in when you turn it on, allow a little time for it to come up to 400.
But then you just bring it right.
Bring it out,
down.
let it cool. It should only take a few minutes for it to cool. You could even run water on it at that point. But if, in 5 minutes it's going to be cooled off. It'd be best just to set it out and let it cool. Then you've got a tool. Really, it's just a matter of a few minutes to make it. You've got the 1 hour of oven time. So realistically, in less than 2 hours from the time you decide you need a cutter a certain shape, you can have one heat treated ready to use. I think, whether you do this or not, it's good knowledge to know how to do it if you ever want to.
Does the same thing apply to your round, quarter-inch round stock? Is that going to be the same type steel? If you want to make some of your cutting bits?
I think 01 will come in round.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay.
So we can get it.
Because I'd want to do that, too. I want to try to make that thing, to make that round
Yeah, see,
pearl
that's
thing.
another advantage. If you had some round stock, you could bend this. There's some cutters that you would use in the drill that you could bend that shank off at a little bit of an angle, and it would cut more of a little donut shape all at once. Where if you use your eccentric cutter to do that, you could do this with a drill.
When you do that, you're actually tempering it, and you can't bottle it. You have to anneal it again. When you heat it.
Yeah, right. After if you heat that up to bend it, what I would do there is get your shape on first, heat it, bend it, and in the same process, go ahead and heat it and do your quench and heat treat. But you need to have a little bit of judgment there on what you're doing. If you heat this back here and bend it, you harden that some. Don't quench that. Let that cool in the air. It's going to pick up some hardness, but it's not going to get real hard. And then if you do your tempering at 400, you should be.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking for, because I have some ideas of some things I want to make with it.
Couldn't you, if you heat it and bend it, just stick it in a bucket of garden lime?
Right, that's.
And then let it cool.
Let it cool.
So it's covered. Plunge it quick.
Right, and it should be just about as soft as it was to begin with if you do that.
And that'll anneal it.
Right.
It keeps it hot.
Yeah, we've got
Lets it cool
boxes
very
of lime
gradually,
out here
so
to
it
cool
doesn't
stuff slow that we need to. And you need a piece like this, I'd say a coffee can full of it, this stuck down in the middle. And you'd be surprised how long that's going to stay hot in there. You're talking about hours. You don't want to hurry that, because if you hurry that up, it's going to get hard and you're going to have a brittle
And that
spot.
could really be dangerous.
Yeah, so if you do any bending as far as kicking them over and doing stuff like that, you're going to have to warm it up to bend it, cool it slow. Then you could go ahead and do your filing and shaping, and then heat treat just the cutting edge. Then go through the process we're talking about. So we'll go ahead and see if we can heat treat this. I think coming up, really, you just want to do the cutting edge. Is all you want to be hard. There's no need to heat treat this whole thing. Really, it'd be a disadvantage, because with it all hard, and then the harder it is, the more brittle it is. So basically, all you're interested in is just the cutting edge. And but then I don't think you want to just blast the heat right to the edge, because that could deteriorate the edge a little bit. You want to get behind it on the back side or the front side and let that heat go to the edge. If you're heating here and it's working its way out to the edge.
So you're talking about on the flat side on top of the, where the cut is?
Yeah, let's see if I can point this out here.
That's all right, as long as we get the voice, we can work that out.
Okay, right here on the front side or the back side, put your flame there. The heat's going to go both ways, but you want it to work its way to the edge, not come in here and put the torch right on the edge, because that's going to heat almost instantly. So you want a little bit of heat treated area around there, not just the edge. So on the back side or the front side, away from the cutting edge a little bit, let the heat run out to the cutting edge, and then do your quench.
Good. Go ahead, that's all right. Yeah, wait just a second, I want to try this. Maybe I'm getting more detail.
On this MAP gas, not every propane torch will run this MAP gas. I think it needs a little bit different, I don't know if it's a filter or what it is, orifice or something in there. And they also say not to operate it more than 60 degrees off, because I think if you tilt it like that, maybe the acetylene and the propane
Starts to spit.
spits and separates, and you'll get more of the other.
That's why they have those that's got a hose on them, so you can leave the bottle on the
you can leave
table.
the bottle. And then you
move your-
had one that it was a holster attachment. That's one of the biggest and hardest things to learn not to do, is to roll your cutting edge in your system. And I've tried the little leather strops and the buffing wheels, and that, in fact, I bought leather strops with this arrangement and stuff.
Hey, hold it up one more time so we can, yeah, that, and get, yeah, there, now let me get it.
And in that process of the leather strop, I had a tool I'd spent quite
Yeah,
some time
okay.
working on. But last step, I'm gonna go out
Now
and put it,
slowly rotate it a little.
put it
Yeah.
on that leather strop and
Okay, that's
get that
good.
final polish on there. I ruined it. Half an hour's worth of stoning was down the drain in about 5 seconds. Because it polished it just beautiful, but it just rounded that edge off this slicker and anything too.
That has to go in an oven for an
This,
hour?
right, this would be ready for the oven after you wipe the oil off or whatever, get the oil off. You saw how it smoked there. If you leave any oil on it, it'll smoke.
Is there any time limit to that? I mean, can we wait a week and put it in the oven and still do the same thing?
Yeah, there's no
hurry.
no hurry there. This is totally cool. It is very hard. You know, if you shouldn't use it until you do that draw, 400 degrees per an hour.
And then you just drop it in some water.
Wait 5 minutes would be best. If you're really in a hurry, you could cool it down, but in 5 minutes, when you pull it out and set it on the counter, it ought to be, that little piece is going to
Yeah,
cool.
400 degrees isn't that hot, it's not gonna take long to cool down.
But you could, you know, it wouldn't hurt it to do that, but
If you think you got to run water on it, start it at the back of the tube and run the water back.
yeah, and even start with
Gradually
warm
put
water,
it
not
right into
cold
the
water. Yeah. But it shouldn't take 5 minutes to cool that down. And, you know, you're gonna have a very usable tool that's gonna hold a decent edge and last quite a while. I don't know how long these will last, we haven't tried them, but I think they're gonna hold up pretty decent. You know, you see it's not that big a process to do.
Ray, is that hour's time just for that size tool? If you're doing thicker stuff, do you need to leave it in longer, or is that?
We talked to our heat treater about this process, and that's what he said when we told him we were using 1/4 inch square, 3/8 square material.
Normal drawing temperature is an hour per inch of thickness.
Yeah, so definitely the thicker it is, you know, it's gonna take more time for that temperature to soak the whole part up, so it would take longer.
Does that steel come, does it come with the instructions on heat treating? Usually they give it to you.
Right here, hardening, it says preheat thoroughly at 1200 degrees Fahrenheit to 1250, so we were right between there now.
We went right on through that.
Yeah, then heat to 1450 to 1500, depending upon section size. Hold until uniformly heated through. Quench in warm, thin quenching oil.
Twitching?
Quenching oil at about 125 and temper immediately.
There it says temper immediately.
You know, now over here, tempering 400 degrees, temper, I guess if you do all this other right, should give you 60 to 62 drop depth. And that's about, I think a file's around 62, isn't it? So, you know, 500 degrees would draw it down to 57 to 59. 600 would be 55, 57. As quenched, it should be 63 to 65. So, this came from a tool steel company in St. Louis. I don't know what would be the best way. Probably, do you think they'd sell them individuals on a stick at a
I'm
time?
not sure they would, but any industrial supply deal that sells routine tool supplies and drills and stuff like that's got access to that.
Should be able to get it locally.
Yeah.
Traverse tool will mail you a stick, whatever you want.
You know, I don't know what the price differences would be, but I'd say you should be able to buy an 18-inch stick for $15. I think that's gonna make you several cutters.
Especially in most cases, you can make them on both ends, right? There isn't
Yeah,
any
you
reason.
can, sure.
That's what I practiced on some of yours, and I made
Yeah.
something on the opposite.
A lot of ours were single end, and
Yeah.
we figured that would be stock for people to use the other end to do whatever they wanted to on some. Yeah, you could cut these to a length to where you could use the other end. You'd have to know what you wanted before you hardened it.
Yeah, that would be a problem, but if you kept the vice grips on there, it should keep one end from affecting the other too much.
So is there any questions on sharpening or the heat treating or anything? Guess not. I think this pretty much,
I was gonna ask the difference, what, I know there's air hardening, water hardening, and oil hardening. What,
well, that's just the different,
you know, if they're quenching things or what,
And then I would,
to do what we're doing.
the air ordeal or something.
The environment you heat treating in is.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Welcome. See you, boss. Thanks, Mike, the boss.
Yeah, Ray, do you have any,
Oh, yes. Headsets.
Get the new one then.